Stell's voice for me is like, it is just angelic. Oh, hell yes.
You ready?
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Peter Barber here, professional opera singer and music producer. And after my analysis video for Gento by this amazing group SB19, I'll leave a link for that here, I've gotten so many requests to do a musical breakdown and analysis of this recent performance from them on the Wish Bus. So we're gonna dive into that today. Before we do, I'd like to give a quick shout out to my partner company, TuneLark. They're an amazing online learning company for music. So music lessons if you want to learn voice or music composition or cello or violin or guitar. There are expert teachers awaiting you to take you on your musical journey. I can't stress enough how important it's been for me, from my development as a young singer to an undergrad singer, all the way to a professional singer in multiple genres, to have a voice teacher and a vocal coach always there along the way, helping guide my artistry and training. So check them out. Get 50% off your first trial lesson with the link in the description below. And without further ado, guys, let's dive into ILAW, or totally not sure actually how you pronounce this word, but SB19's performance on the Wish Bus. Let's do it.
Kanina ay nahuli ang aking sarili, nagangiti na naman at nagkukuli, ng tunay na kailanman ay di ko maipagsasabi na naman. At pagdating sa aking tahanan ay hindi ko na naman mahanap aking susi. Saang lupalap ko ba to na itabi, pasintabi na naman.
Alright, I tried to click the subtitles. Apparently there aren't any, unfortunately, so I won't know what they're saying, which is unfortunate because I'm sure that adds a lot to their performance and the message, of course. Alright, we got Ken kicking it off, and then they passes the lead baton over to Josh on the right. Let's talk a little bit about Ken's approach to this singing. It sounds like they're both starting in a very, this is right in their middle voice. Obviously no high belting, nothing super low here yet. This is right in the middle, comfortable singing. And background, you've really only got acoustic guitar, it sounds like. So it's a very stripped down, raw kind of performance thus far.
Kanina ay nahuli ang aking sarili, nagangiti na naman at nagkukuli, ng tunay na kailanman ay di ko maipagsasabi na naman.
So yeah, he's keeping it pretty light. He's allowing a little bit of air to come through, not intentionally not getting a super efficient use of the voice, right? He's allowing a bit of that intimacy in the sound, a little bit of that extra air to come through to kind of make the sound a little warmer and sweeter. Really, really nice approach and a really good match for the acoustic guitar happening in the background. And again, this is all so we're in F major, and he's just singing up to A, which is, very much middle voice, not high at all for Ken.
At pagdating sa aking tahanan ay hindi ko na naman mahanap aking susi. Saang lupalap ko ba to na itabi, pasintabi na naman.
Nice. And then from Josh, we have, it's higher in his range, right? It's up to F4. And it sounds basically just as comfortable as when Ken was singing. And these are obviously slightly different voice types, right? Josh's voice naturally sits a little bit higher than Ken's. You can hear that in the approach to the range. You can hear that in the actual vocal color and quality. Josh, very much a tenor voice, so those high Fs, no problem at all for him, whereas Ken might have to stretch the voice a little bit to get up there. And that's all we get. The approach is very similar. The vocal efficiency in Josh's is a little bit higher because he's getting up higher in that chest range, a little bit closer to that belt style singing. But just a beautiful, beautiful start to this song.
At pagdating sa aking tahanan ay hindi Kung na naman mahanap aking susi, saang lupalop ko ba to na itabi, pasintabi na naman na naman.
Nalilito, nahihilo na sa inyo. Nasaan na nga ba sarili kong pagkatao?
All right, then Justin gets in here, getting some higher belting going, obviously much more intense singing. I'll go back a little more. I think Josh ended kind of right, like range-wise, kind of right where Justin takes over. Yeah, that high F. So that high F is the first note that comes out of Justin's mouth, and obviously in a much more belt quality, right? Getting towards that yelly quality of singing. He does a little na na. He doesn't come in right on that F. He actually goes, he kind of hits the D right below it for a second. This is a very common technique when approaching high notes. You hit a lower note, and in opera you would call it hooking into the high note. This is much less of a hook. This is more of like a flip up. But he hits the D for a split second and then jumps up and locks in on that F.
Nahihilo na sa inyo. Nasaan na nga ba sarili kong pagkatao?
A nice transition up into the head voice falsetto area on that high A. And then comes back to that chest voice connection on the G. Starts very much chest connected. He gets that yelly sound. I talk about this a lot in my videos. A really high chest voice belt is a lot like a yell, physiologically speaking. A lot of what's happening in here is like a yell. It's just a more efficient sound. And we get a very efficient sound here, right? There's just a little bit of air, a tiny bit of edge, a little bit of grit in the voice, but not like rock or metal level grit, just like a little bit of extra turbulence to the sound. Otherwise, it's a very, very clean tone. And he flips up into that head voice for the high A and then comes back down and then passes the baton off to Pablo.
Inyo, nasaan na nga ba sarili kong pagkatao? Sino pang may tenga sa mga pulong ka? Kahit pa ba sumigaw ay malabang? Oh, at tao po, pakinggan nyo naman ako.
I feel like it just needs like a big clap chorus. You know what I'm saying? Oh, so good. So really we have a nice build up from going from Ken to Josh to Justin, then up to the highest part so far with Pablo. I think he gets up to, it must be like a tenor high C. But I think he starts ripping on the high A there. Really solid. And you can feel the intensity just like revving up in the song. The emotions kind of unfolding. So it goes G to A all the way up. So full chest connection on that high A. This is very much that yell quality belt style singing. I think he gets up on that to that high C. It sounds like he goes a little bit into a lighter mechanism, a little bit into that kind of mixed voice instead of keeping it fully chest connected. Otherwise, it would have gotten more yelly if he carried the chest weight all the way up there. Really nice approach, really nice switch of registration there. And watch how, when he goes up to these high notes, how the vowel, his mouth gets more open. Really common approach, really good approach for those really high belt notes to have a big open mouth position. Na, na. So when he goes from the slightly lower note to the slightly higher note, his mouth actually opens up slightly as well.
Subukan buksan ang bukas namang pinto. makita nyo, tunay na ako, di nagtatago. Sa likod ng bumubulag na ilaw na to.
Stell's voice for me is like, it is just angelic. It is so pure. There's no air or raspiness or anything. It's just like such an efficient, beautiful sound. Obviously a very high tenor voice, singing the same range as Pablo. Cool to hear their vocal colors back to back. All the way up to that, I think all the way up to that C, and then he does some other stuff in high falsetto I want to hear. And then does some like growl, just a little bit of a growl technique coming back down out of the falsetto, which is pretty unusual. On that G, I think he does a little bit of that growl. Yeah. Kind of like when he jumps up to those high belts, his vocal folds just go whoop. They just go so nicely together, and we get such an efficient tone coming out of him. And a really nice kind of transitioning us back into this acoustic feel. Pablo's approach here, much softer, breathier, really, really lovely.
Wish 107.5.
Napapamuni-muni sa kawalan ng huni, di mapapirmi aking sarili.
So this is a very different approach that we have from the first verse. Now we're in much more, I don't know, it feels like more fluid kind of ballad land. Like they had a lot more text in the first verse. There were a lot more words. And now it's lines, it's melody, right? There's more melody to the singing. So we get this nice line from Justin, just carrying it up, passes it off to Stell, and then Stell goes back up into that higher belt land with that beautiful, efficient tone.
Napapamuni-muni sa kawalan ng huni, di mapapirmi.
So he flips, so we know he can sing that high and chest voice now, but he intentionally flips up to falsetto because in this intimate verse style singing, he doesn't want to get up into that yelly quality, that really powerful singing. You want to save that for the chorus and save that for the climaxes. So despite being able to do it, using that artistic license to use that lighter mechanism, which makes much more sense for this part of the song. So lower voice type for Ken, right? He's probably more of a baritone than a natural tenor, but all the way up to that high G, and has a nice transition into his falsetto voice, but you can tell there's much more weight in his sound when he's singing the same notes really as the other four. There's more rasp, there's more grit, there's literally more effort to reach those notes, which can be used really well artistically, right? To show more emotion or to show a more powerful phrase, right? But you can tell his voice, it doesn't sit up there like the others, kind of naturally sits up a bit higher. All the way up to a really nice G though. And that, it just pulling that chest voice all the way up there. Nice. And all the way up to that high C and falsetto. All the way up to that high C and falsetto. Nice, very nice, Pablo. now Josh all the way up to those high A's. And like really just managing those high notes so well. Really not struggling at all. We got a nice intense build up from Pablo. Hands it off to Josh. And I think we're going to get a nice lead back into this. I think Josh is singing the pre-chorus again differently than he did the first time, right? The first time was much lighter, much sweeter. He only went up to an F. Now he's going all the way up to that high A belting.
Bakit ganito? Inakalang magbabago? Kabayaran ba dito'y sarili ko'y maglalaho?
Sino bang may tenga sa mga pulong ko? Kahit pa ako'y sumigaw ay malaban.
There it is.
Tao po, pakinggan nyo naman ako.
Hell yes. Full belt, tenor high C. Absolutely excellent. And then this part, in this next chorus, remember Stell, the first time he opted to flip up to falsetto for that high C, right? To kind of reserve some intensity for a later part of the song. Boom. And you can tell he's pushing in these belts now. He's actually pushing beyond the pure efficiency. His sound is a little bit more pure, the first chorus. Now he's pushing beyond it a little bit to get a little bit more intensity. There's a little more air and grit in the sound. And then he belts that high C. Awesome.
Sino bang may tenga sa mga pulong ko? Kahit pa ako'y sumigaw ay malaban.
Gorgeous.
Tao po, pakinggan nyo naman ako. Bakit di niya subukang buksan ang bukas namang pinto? Nang tuluyan ang makita nyo, tunay na ako, pinagtatago sa likod na bumubulag na ilaw na to.
I love hearing them back to back because they're such different voices. Very similar range. Pablo still in the second chorus opting to flip up for that high C, whereas Stell just took the chest voice all the way up there. But Pablo's voice has such a more natural grit and rasp to it, and Stell's is much more efficient and pure, and it gets this really nice contrast of colors back to back.
Nang tuluyan ang makita nyo, tunay na ako, pinagtatago sa likod na bumubulag na ilaw na to.
Ito na naman ako, patungo sa presinto. Nag-iisip ng kung ano-ano, kailan bang laya ko dito?
You can tell that's about as low as Josh, and probably most of these singers, except for Ken, maybe can reliably perform and maintain volume in the sound. Down to that C3, because really naturally high-setting tenor voices, C3 is getting, I mean, that's getting really to the bottom. That's getting bottom of the chest range. But really nice intimate approach. We've got a really subdued acoustic guitar here. Obviously a very, down section before what I assume is going to be a big final chorus.
Ito na naman ako, patungo sa presinto.
See how breathy that gets towards the bottom? That's when you know the singer's really running out of real estate down there. So you can tell if they're intentionally making it breathy, and then you can tell if it's just really low in their range. This to me sounds like it's very low in Josh's range.
Ito na naman ako, patungo sa presinto. Nag-iisip ng kung ano-ano, kailan bang laya ko dito?
Ito na naman ako, pwede bang ipagpaliban muna ng isang linggo? Pwede muna bang hinto? Papalapin, ako'y papalapin na bigla sa yabag ng bawat takbang nitong paa, patungo sa lugar kung saan ayaw kong pumunta. Wala na bang iba? Wala na ba? Patuloy ang
This is such a cool section that I was not expecting at all. This is kind of like a bridge section. We get Ken rapping, and I know I've heard Ken and Pablo rap before on previous songs I've analyzed for them, but really cool. We get a big wall of harmonies here, starting with a big belt from Pablo, and then Ken takes over the rap, and you can really tell again by his vocal color, he's a lower sitting voice. Just a naturally darker kind of huskier tone than the others.
Pwede mo na bang hinto? Papalapin, ako'y papalapin na. Bigas sa yabag ng bawat takbang nitong paa.
This is actually pretty wild. I thought it was a wall of harmonies, but it's really just the instrumentation that we get in the band we don't see here. Probably just being played for them in their headphones, and then they line it up later. I don't think a band is with them on the Wish Bus live. They're singing live, of course. But we just get belts from Pablo in the background. The other three, Justin, Stell, Josh, they're not singing right now. They're not singing harmonies. It's just Ken rapping and Pablo belting with a big instrumental backing. Absolutely epic. I love the change in drum. It goes from like da 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 to check 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 just for like a few bars, and then it goes back as they lead into the final chorus. Some big high note, big glorious high notes from Stell there as well. Ready for this? Big high C.
Sa mga bulong ko, kahit pa ako'y sumigaw ay malabo, malabo, malabo.
Hey, what's up? Got up to that high C gritty chest. I love it. He goes from this super soft, intimate singing with just acoustic guitar behind him, and then as all the instruments come back in, he finally takes that chest voice all the way up to the high C. It's like the perfect story, right? He's building his voice throughout this entire song, and we get this big climax on this huge belt with a lot of rasp in it. Even up to the D, maintaining pretty solid chest connection there. Amazing. All right. Huge climax, all of them singing at once. We got Ken, you hear Ken very clearly doing a lower harmony in that more baritone voice, and then you get the rest of them pretty much belting full out all at once. Just a lot of power coming here.
Wish exclusive on Wish 1075.
Yeah, really, really wonderful. Thank you all for the recommendations. Thoroughly enjoyed analyzing their voices in a live context. And, you know, Gento is so hard to analyze because there's so much happening. And as a music producer and singer, I want to comment on a lot of the music production as well. Like you heard me today commenting on some of the instruments being used and some of the drum rhythms and stuff like that. But I got to talk a lot more about their voices and their singing in this, which I love. So if you guys enjoyed this, if I added something to your SB19 experience, do consider joining my Patreon. You can join for free, actually, to see what it's about, and then the benefits start at $1 a month. and they go up from there. That's a great way to support me. So other than that, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, leave a comment. Any comment for the algorithm is great. Consider joining my Patreon. And another quick shout out to TuneLark if you guys are interested in any kind of musical lessons to help you on your musical journey. Link for 50% off your trial lesson is in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.